Hey everybody, it's Cece here, and in today's video tutorial I'm going to show you how to create one of these gorgeous macrame heart-shaped coasters. Now these can be made in a beautiful set to put on your coffee table, or you can even just make one on its own to put on your desk or even your bedside table. They're super quick and they're super easy to make, so let me show you how they're done. So for these macrame coasters, you're only going to need one thing, and that is some cord. Now, I highly recommend you use a single strand twisted cotton cord, just because the single strand cord is very easy to brush out, and so the fringe around the outside will look a lot nicer if you're using that single strand twisted cotton. Now, I'm using a 3mm size in a nice bright pink color. Of course, you can use any other color that you like as well, but the 3mm cord will work out the best. In terms of other equipment, you'll also need some scissors and a tape measure, as well as some pins and a cork board to work on. Now, the great thing about this project as well is that it only requires the knowledge of how to do one knot. So the knot that we'll be using for this project is the square knot. If you don't know how to create a square knot, I do have a tutorial available, so make sure you check that one out. I will leave the link to that tutorial in the description below. So for one coaster, you're going to need to cut 24 strings to about 50 centimeters in length each. Once you have those strings all ready to go, you're ready to start creating your first coaster. So to start this project, I have some pins and a cork board, which I'm going to use to pin my strings onto. And I'm just starting with the first 50 centimeter cord. I'm just going to lay that down and grabbing another 3. So I'm going to lay down a total of 4 of my 50 centimeter cords. And then I'm just going to pin them in place so they don't move around while I'm trying to knot on them. Perfect. And so now I'm going to use these 4 cords, and I'm going to create a square knot using the 2 outside cords, knotting around those 2 cords in the middle. If you don't know how to create a square knot, make sure you check out my tutorial for that knot. I'll leave the link to that in the description below. So now you should have one square knot that looks like this. And we're just going to add another 2 cords now onto the side here. So I'm adding 2 cords on the left hand side, and I'm just going to pin these in place so they also don't move around. And now that these are in place, I'm going to use the 2 cords here that I've added with the next 2 cords and create a square knot with these 4 cords. So now that that square knot's done, I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm adding 2 cords to the right hand side now. And then I'm going to use these 4 cords on the right to create a square knot. So you can see the 4 cords that I'm using on the right here to create the square knot. I'm bringing it up nice and tight so it sits underneath that first square knot I made at the top. So it should look like this now. Alright, so now I'm just going to pin this section in place so it doesn't move around. And then we're just going to create a square knot in the center here. So I'm grabbing the center 4 cords, and I'm going to use these cords to create one square knot. So now that that's done, I am going to add some more cords onto this piece. So I'm going to start by adding 2 more cords on the right hand side here. So I'm just pinning 2 new cords in place. This is similar to the same concept we were using earlier. So just adding those 2 extra cords. And then I'm going to use these 4 cords on the right here to create another square knot. So there's the next square knot all finished. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So going over to the left here and then adding another 2 cords onto the left hand side, which I'll pin into place. And then I'm using the 4 cords on the left here to create another square knot. Alrighty, so this part is done and you should have a cute little triangle shape here. And now I'm just going to create a couple of extra square knots. So I'm just starting by removing 2 cords from the left and 2 cords from the right, so they're just put off to the side. And then you'll be left with these 8 cords in the center. So I'm going to use these 2 groups of 4 cords to create a square knot. So with these first 4 cords, I'm creating 1 square knot here. And then with the next 4 cords over, I'm going to create another square knot. Perfect. So this little section here, we just need to create another time. And so now, once you've done that, you'll have 2 of the same section. So you'll have a total of 24 cords that you've used to create these 2 sections here. So now I'm pinning them together so they sit right next to each other. And then I'm just going to grab the 2 cords from one of the pieces and the next 2 cords from the other piece. So those 4 cords that sit together, I'm going to create a square knot in the center using these 4 cords. And so essentially this joins those 2 pieces together. So now that that's joined together, you'll see you've got one section rather than 2 separate ones. And so now I'm just going to create another full row of square knots underneath here. And to do that, we just start with the first 4 cords on the left here and create 1 square knot with these 4 cords. You want to leave a little bit of that gap there, just so the line of square knots is straight. And we'll fill in that gap a little bit later. Okay, so now moving on to the next 4 cords and creating 1 square knot with these 4 cords. And then after that one's finished, moving on to the next 4 cords in the group. And I'm using these 4 cords to again create 1 square knot. And then continuing like this, so using the next group of 4 cords. You just want to keep creating 1 square knot with each group of 4 cords. So essentially we're creating a bit of an alternating square knot pattern. Just the last square knot now on the right hand side. And so now we have our full row all completed. So the next step is to create another row underneath here, and we're just going to take 2 cords away from either side. So we're decreasing the number of strings in the row, and then grabbing the next 4 cords and creating a square knot with these 4 cords. So I'm not using the 2 cords that I've discarded from either side. I'm just moving along the line again and using each 4 cords to create 1 square knot. You also want to make sure that your square knots are staying nice and tight and neat, and that just makes sure that the coaster is all neat and well made when it's finished. So you can see I'm just moving along the line, grabbing each 4 cords and creating a square knot with those 4 cords. Alrighty, perfect. So now we're going to decrease the size again of our next row, and to do that we again just take away 2 cords from the left and 2 cords from the right, and so we have less strings again in the middle here. So I'm going to grab the first 4 cords on the left here and create my first square knot for this row. And then the next 4 cords, creating another square knot, and just continuing to create these square knots so I have a full row. Last one now. So you should be able to see that the size of the rows for each new row is decreasing, and that's what creates the point for our heart. So now we're moving on to the next row down, and again I'm just going to discard the 2 cords on the right and the left, so I've got a smaller row again, and then using each group of 4 cords to create another square knot. Alright, so this row is now just about done. And so now we again put 2 cords from each side off to the side. And so now we're just left with 8 cords. So that will be 2 square knots in this row. One with the first group of 4 cords, like so. And then one with the next group of 4 cords. And so now that that's done, we just create one final square knot in the middle at the bottom here, using those middle 4 cords. And this will create our little point at the bottom of our heart. There we go. So now you can see we have a beautiful heart shape. And all we need to do is just trim these cords. So I'm just trimming them roughly to start. I will measure out the exact length in a moment so it's more even. These offcuts are also good to keep, so you can use them for other projects like tassels. So now I'm just kind of straightening out all the strings, making them sit neater. And then I'll go around with my tape measure and just measure out the exact length that I want. So I'm making all of my tassel around the outside 4 centimeters. You could do it a bit shorter too if you prefer. I'm just checking that all of my strings are now 4 centimeters in length and trimming the ones that are a little bit long. So now I've finished trimming all of my cords, and I'm just going to grab a comb and brush them out so they get nice and fluffy. So just taking my time to go around and really comb out all of the ends. Okay, I'm getting just about done with the combing, and so I've just got to fill in these gaps on either side now with some extra cord. So I just like to use those offcuts from earlier and grab one and fold it in half, and then grab the loop and then pop it through that gap. So I'm just creating a lark's head knot around that loop. Just pull the ends through the loop, pull it nice and tight, like so. And then I'll just grab my scissors and cut this end here so it's the same length as the rest of the cords. I'll do the same thing on the other side as well. So just grabbing the loop and pulling it through that little gap on the side here and creating that lark's head knot around that gap there. I just need to comb out these little bits as well. And so you can see that that fills in that gap really lovely. Now once you're happy with it all brushed out, the next step will be to grab some hairspray or fabric stiffener and just spray the ends. And this will just help to keep those ends in place, stop them from getting tangled or messed up so much. And so now I'm grabbing my roller cutter. You can use scissors as well, but I'm just going to neaten up the edges of this heart. So I'm drawing around the outside with the roller cutter just to create a really neat, beautiful finish on the tassels here in a heart shape. And so once that's finished and all trimmed, you should end up with something that looks like this one here. It's a gorgeous heart-shaped coaster that you can pop on your desk to have your mug on top of, or maybe even on your bedside table. You can pop a little candle on top of it. There's so many ways you can use this beautiful heart coaster. So there you go guys, that's how you create your very own heart-shaped macrame coaster. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's tutorial. If you have, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching, and here's to finding our peace and creativity.